Most lifters are aware of the important role that carbohydrates play in our pursuit of achieving maximal jackness, and specifically in the context of getting jacked, carbs, also known as like glucose or glycogen on a more cellular level, but I'll be using all these terms interchangeably as their differences aren't necessarily that important for this video. Carbs are the primary fuel source that your muscles rely on during a typical hypertrophy-focused training session, and the muscle cells themselves even have their own storage of glucose that they pull out of during these training sessions. Additional glycogen is also kept in the liver, and this is also another source where it can provide even more glucose if the muscles use up their own reserve. So we know that carbs are important, but what the sources are and when you eat them can have a big impact regarding your training performance, recovery, and overall day-to-day quality of life. The biggest takeaway for your carb intake, if you were to remember nothing else from this video, is to consume the majority of your carb intake in the meals surrounding your workouts. This ensures that your muscles have the fuel they need to perform during the workout, as well as recovering from said workout, and to replenish the glycogen stores once the workout is finished. Taking things a step further, being picky with the carb source can have a small but real impact. The carbs that are often vilified as bad or unhealthy, which in some cases I might possibly agree, are the ones that are high on the glycemic index. Examples of these are white rice, fruit juices, honey, like cereals, potatoes. You can easily find a list of high glycemic foods online. These carbs are labeled as high glycemic foods as they digest quickly and they spike your blood sugar rather dramatically. But in the case of post-workout, when you want to start the recovery process as quickly as possible, consuming these carbs that digest quickly and can get into your muscles ASAP is the right choice. Besides post-workout, the other time that a high glycemic carbohydrate can be used to your advantage is during a workout. The workouts that you'll find the most benefit from an intra-workout carb are for the relatively lightweight, higher rep, higher volume, shorter rest workouts. These workouts are predominantly fueled by carbs, and if your workout lasts over 45 to 60 minutes, you'd likely see some benefit. If you're a strength-focused lifter, I apologize, but candy during your workouts isn't going to play much of a role at all. Workouts with the heavy weights, low reps, and long rest periods, they don't use much at all for carbs, and they can even be hindered from a high-carb meal as the release of insulin after a big carb meal will decrease the intensity at which you can train. The only time of day I'd really try to limit or completely avoid these high glycemic carbs are for breakfast. If you train early in the day, then disregard this as you'll likely want to have some sort of carbs either before or during. But starting off your day limiting high glycemic carbs isn't necessarily for physical performance, but more for the mental performance benefits. Starting off your day with a huge carb meal compared to a breakfast of primarily proteins and fats will impair your ability to stay mentally sharp and think clearly. Additionally, a breakfast high in carbs has a big impact on your hunger and appetite signaling for the rest of the day. In the case of a high carb breakfast, you will feel less satiated throughout the day, and you'll have increased hunger compared to if your breakfast was higher in proteins and fats. For someone with a relatively low calorie allotment for the day, this can make following their diet almost unbearable. But for others, this could be used to their advantage, so take this information with your own goals in mind. The last meal-specific timing aspect I'll go into is the pre-workout meal. As I mentioned earlier, the insulin spike that's associated with a high-carb meal can actually be to your disadvantage. We all have likely experienced the insulin lull after a high-carb meal where you feel sluggish and groggy, and all you want to do is lie down and nap. This is a very real response, and the insulin lull after a high-carb meal will decrease the intensity at which your muscles can contract and just simply how hard you can train. For the workouts where you are using relatively light weights, doing a shit ton of reps, and resting very little, you won't be impacted much or even at all, but if you are using relatively heavier loads with longer rest periods, this might be an area of concern. To limit this insulin spike, regardless of what training style you are doing, you want the pre-workout meal to be balanced with protein and possibly even some fat. A big serving of primarily carbohydrates, such as cereal, is the way to a big spike in blood sugar and then a crash, and then that's how you get to that insulin lull. Instead of just the carbs, throw in a protein source to limit the severity of the energy crash, and in the case of cereal, you could just mix in a protein powder and it usually mixes very well. If you want more info about how to structure your nutrition plan, as well as your lifestyle as a whole to prioritize muscle growth, but also keeping your just overall well-being in mind, you can take the link below to download my Potent Priorities ebook or head to my website at evolutionaryaesthetics.com. It gives you the framework to follow with the basics that everyone should be doing, but also goes deeper into specifics for those looking to dot all their I's and cross all their T's in their pursuit of optimization. Share this video with someone who you think could benefit from being smarter with their carbohydrate choices before, during, and after a workout. subscribe to the channel, and we'll see each other in the next video.